Welcome to Movie Speeching. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take good care. Morbius is the name of the movie. Please like and subscribe to get every update. In the mountains of Costa Rica, a helicopter drops a team of scientists led by Dr. Morbius into a cave entrance. Morbius has a rare blood disease and requires a cane to walk. That's why he asks his team to set up the traps they brought. He then steps forward and raises his bleeding hand to catch all the bats in the cave. The team and pilot run away in fear, but Morbius just waits. It all started 25 years ago in Greece. Young Morbius lives in a hospital where Dr. Nicholas introduces him to a boy whom Morbius names Milo. The two children have the same rare blood disease, but they hit it off right away because they share the same desire to be normal. While they are talking, Milo's machine suddenly stops working and he passes out. Morbius takes the quill from his pen and quickly repairs his machine, and Milo quickly wakes up. Impressed by Morbius' intelligence, Nicholas decides to send Morbius to an exclusive school in New York, but Morbius accepts this only after Nicholas promises to look after Milo. Before leaving, Morbius writes a letter to Milo, promising to find a cure for his illness. The letter accidentally falls out of Milo's hands, and he goes to look for it, only to find that mean kids from a nearby school are reading it and making fun of him. The group begins to beat up Milo for fun, but fortunately Nicholas arrives and scares them off before they can do any serious damage, and must also stop Milo from retaliating. Morbius managed to earn a PhD at the age of 19 and developed artificial blood that would ultimately save millions of lives. The King of Sweden wants to give him the Nobel Prize, but he declines because he accidentally discovered artificial blood while trying to find a cure for a disease. Back in the present, Morbius returns to his job at the hospital, where his colleague Dr. Martin approaches him for a private conversation. While running some tests on him, she asks about Morbius' crazy project to remix human DNA and bat DNA. This is funded by Milo. Morbius pretends not to know what she is saying, but Martine reveals her truth as she reveals Morbius' tank full of Colombian bats. Because these bats are the only mammals on Earth that eat only blood, Morbius believes that the bat's special saliva could be the solution to curing the disease. Although Martine is skeptical of the idea and worries about the morality behind such an experiment, Morbius begins the experiment and tests the new serum on lab rats. Unfortunately, the poor mouse dies. At that moment, one of Morbius' patients had a seizure. They rushed her to her room and left her no choice but to put her in a coma to save her from a possible stroke. When Martine checked her lab again, she was surprised to see the mouse moving. This means the serum is actually working. Sometime later, Morbius meets Milo and tells him about his breakthrough and asks for more money. The experiment is not legal, so it has to be carried out on the high seas, and Milo is willing to pay the price to find a cure. A few days later, Morbius takes Martine on a journey to the high seas. Morbius succeeds in creating a new, more advanced serum, and Martine injects it into Morbius' spine. When his body begins to tremble, she ties him up again. At that time, the crew comes to the lab to check on them, and Morbius manages to escape while Martine argues with him. Martine and her guards enter the isolation room and are shocked to discover Morbius crawling on the ceiling with a monstrous face. The guard tries to shoot him, but Morbius moves incredibly quickly and attacks and baits him, ignoring Martine's pleas to stop. Suddenly, the ship's alarm goes off, causing Morbius' sensitive ears to hurt so much that he panics and damages the isolation chamber. Her remaining security team arrives and Martine tries to stop them, but they push her away, rendering her unconscious. That's when Morbius manages to break the glass and jump out of the room, demonstrating new vampire powers that allow him to dodge bullets, move quickly, and kill the guards without mercy. A few survivors escape and lock the door, but Morbius also becomes incredibly strong and easily breaks the door open. Morbius then crawls up to the ceiling and he kills them all, taking his time and capturing the guards one by one. Once the entire crew is dead and Morbius has had enough, his body reverts to human form and he rushes to check himself in the mirror. It is clear that he was eventually cured. Later, Morbius confirms that Martine is safe and checks the surveillance cameras. Distraught at what he had done, he vomited, but he made an emergency call, got some serum, and jumped into the ocean. The next morning, 2 FBI agents arrive on the ship to investigate the scene, but unfortunately Morbius has deleted all security records and Martine is still unconscious. The incident quickly made the news and was witnessed by Nicholas and Milo. Sometime later, Morbius returns to the hospital and after taking care of the patient, goes to the lab to deliver the serum. His body soon begins to fail again, so he rushes to the refrigerator to drink the artificial blood he makes himself so he can sustain himself without killing anyone. Next, he begins to test his abilities. He is fast, athletic, and can climb anything and fly anywhere. When Morbius entered the pool with the bats respectfully flew around him and Morbius felt a connection with them. He also realizes that he has developed echolocation, just like a bat, and tests it by throwing a ball across his room and catching it with his eyes closed. Masu. Unfortunately, these powers only last as long as he is eating. The fake blood keeps him stable for 6 hours, but he knows that time will get shorter and he will soon need real blood. To further test this, he was locked in an isolated room. When Milo came to visit a few hours later, he was in an extremely weak state. Morbius requests suggests to write his blood on glass, so Milo brings some bags from the freezer. Once Morbius is fed, he heals and becomes strong again, and Milo is overjoyed by this healing. However, when Milo asks to be injected as well, Morbius tells him that he made a mistake and that this treatment is a curse. As Milo continues to insist, Morbius becomes aggressive and kicks him out. Meanwhile, Martine finally wakes up and is visited by FBI agents who show her disturbing images of bodies on the ship. However, Martine pretends not to remember what happened that night. Later that night, a nurse was working late and noticed that the lights were not working properly. She begins to run away in fear, but she still ends up being captured and killed by a vampire creature. When the body was discovered in the morning, Morbius was as surprised as his colleagues and believed he could have done it too. Morbius, questioning his own sanity, runs into his lab, grabs some fake blood bags, and leaves. On his way home, he encounters an FBI agent who questions him about the experiment and decides to arrest him. Morbius immediately defended himself, knocking them out with just a few moves, and fled up the stairs, dodging the police's bullets. When he reaches the roof of the hospital, he is shocked to find that the air conditioner is blowing stronger than usual. But before he can try out what that means, he is arrested by investigators. At the Manhattan Detention Center, Morbius was allowed to take notes and calculated that his meal times had been reduced from every 6 hours to 4 hours and 22 minutes. When he is taken to the interrogation room, he is handcuffed to a table, and investigators enter with holy water just in case. They blame him and his nurse for the deaths on the ship, but Morbius begins to lose control of himself and begs for a bag of fake blood. Investigators did not take him seriously and sent him back to solitary confinement. Morbius is then visited by Milo, who supports him and gives him a pack of artificial blood before leaving. However, Morbius realizes that Milo has forgotten his wand and learns the truth. Milo stole the serum and injected it into himself. In reality, Milo was the one who killed the nurse. As soon as he comes out, Milo stops acting like he is disabled and walks away with perfect reflexes. Enraged, Morbius drinks blood, transforms into vampire form, and escapes from his cell through a window. He then flies around the city and uses echolocation to hear Milo attacking a newsstand owner. Morbius immediately runs up to Milo in the street and calls him a monster. However, Milo feels that this power is great and that they can finally do whatever they want, and attacks Morbius to get rid of him. A fierce battle ensues, and the vampires attempt to attack each other, causing them to crash into a subway station, causing panic among the residents. After a few more punches, Milo is happy that they have evolved, but Morbius promises to find a way to fix the problem. At that moment, the police show up to arrest them, but Milo is quick and kills them all within seconds before doing a victory dance. Milo then attacks Morbius again as the train approaches. Morbius senses the fast air coming from the train, jumps in front of it, and escapes by jumping through the tunnel. The next day, Martine feels like someone is following her around town, so she enters the store to escape through the back door. It's the agents who are chasing her, and she's now blended into her crowd. Martine, who was on her bus, sees in a newspaper that Morbius is wanted, but suddenly he appears behind her. She believes him when he says that Milo drank the serum and is the real culprit, so she gets off the bus and stops by a cafe. As they talk, Morbius overhears the two criminals mentioning the institute, so he asks Martine a few things before tailing them. After collecting the fake blood given to him by Martine, Morbius discovers that thugs are forging money in the lab. When he kindly asks him to give him his lab, a criminal tries to attack him with a knife, but Morbius breaks his hand and introduces himself as Venom, scaring everyone. Milo prepares for the night while Morbius uses parts of the printing press to create the device needed to cure vampirism. After dancing inside the apartment while changing his clothes, he goes to a nightclub and flirts with a beautiful woman, but the man pushes her away, saying it's the first time he's seen her. Milo manages to control his powers and leaves, but waits outside, and when a man comes out with his friends, he kills them all. Sometime later, Martine goes to Morbius' hospital laboratory to pick up some things and encounters Milo, who asks about her friend. She swears that Martine doesn't know where Morbius is, and she leaves him alone undetected. Meanwhile, FBI agents break into Martine's girlfriend's home, only to find neither she nor her cat there. It is then revealed that Martine is hiding in Morbius' new laboratory, with a cat in tow. Morbius accidentally cuts his finger while trying to feed him, and Morbius has to work hard not to react to the smell of his blood. The two then spend some time on the roof and kiss, unaware that Milo is watching from afar. The next morning, FBI agents discover the body outside the bar and examine the surveillance cameras, identifying Milo as the culprit. Nicholas sees the news updates and goes to Milo and asks him to stop killing people. Milo is fed up with the doctor's pity and attacks Nicholas, seriously injuring him after pointing out that Morbius has always been his favorite. Meanwhile, Morbius succeeds in developing an antibody that only harms vampires' bodies. He makes his two bottles, one for Milo and one for Martine, to use himself when needed. Just then, Nicholas receives a call asking asking for help and rushes to Milo's apartment. Unfortunately, Nicholas could only plead with Morbius to stop Milo before dying. At the same time, Milo kidnaps Martine and forces her to say Morbius' name until she hears it with his powers. After using echolocation to find their location, Morbius flies across the city and finds Martine on a rooftop bleeding from injuries caused by Milo. She wants Morbius to eat herself so she can die being useful, but Morbius kisses her instead and drains a drop of her own blood, falls into her mouth. At that moment, Martine dies and Morbius succumbs to her anger and eats her. Milo then appears on the roof as well, and Morbius jumps on him, causing them both to fall over the edge. On the way down, the vampires continue to attack each other, crashing through the building several times before starting to fall down again. Milo punches Morbius particularly hard, causing him to land on a platform, where he grabs his feet and throws him into a glowing sign. When Morbius falls down again, Milo jumps on Morbius and drags him into a building before he reaches the street, but ends up falling through the sidewalk and into a tunnel. As Milo laughs like a maniac, Morbius sends powerful echolocation waves into the tunnel with his voice and into the water with his hands. Suddenly, an army of bats appears to wake up Morbius, and when Milo tries to kill Morbius with a metal rod, Morbius makes the bats chase him. While the little beasts are capturing Milo, Morbius comes and injects him with antibodies, causing Milo to become human, apologize, and die. At that moment, FBI agents arrive with the police, and Morbius escapes safely through the tunnel, hiding inside a bat. Meanwhile, Martine wakes up on the rooftop and reveals that she is also a vampire. Moments later, a mysterious spell drops Spider-Man's enemy the Vulture into a local prison. Because he is from another universe, no one here knows who he is, and the police quickly release him. Soon, Vulture manages to redesign the villain's costume and asks Morbius to team up with him. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video.